So hello, I'm very excited to present here. So hope it will went well and go well and let's have fun. Let me start about a bit about myself. My name is Maydan. I'm a software engineer working in the ML space for a long time. And my story begins basically that COVID-19 had left the startup I was working with in a tight spot, my family in homeschooling, and we are quite locked at home. It was also created the possibility to start something of my own and chase my own star. At that point, the point of time, I had the blackout. All of the ideas I had before and thought I'm going to be independent and create magnificent thing, suddenly were lost in fog. It was suddenly scary and big, and the ideas I had suddenly just weren't good enough. But then I noticed that in the ideas that I have, there's something that is common. There is a way of organizing data, complex data, that make it simple, and sharing of the data, and helping people to bring their own contribution to this, and help create a bigger solution. And this is how the solution came, and around data organization and authorization, which are very tightly coupled. Since then, I know where I'm going and I have a great idea. I don't care putting the rest of my life on it and working on this idea. It's something big and it will take many years, but the project itself, which is ShareIt, and the foundation and infrastructure of this idea. And I think many will enjoy and could use such infrastructure. Well, it's integrated with Infinidash. Nice joke. So what to expect from the lectures? I will start with why and continue with some terminology and what, and show some how things were actually implemented. And I will show a short demo and a summary. Now, content authorization isn't this problem solved endless time. It was solved by RBAC, LDAP, OPA, also many solutions there are out there. Well, from my experience with working with many big data and systems, data organization and access are the blood, what makes things move. But in many cases, it wasn't the core responsibility or core thing that the product do. So putting a lot of effort on it was sometimes delayed until last moment, or just didn't seem like a good return of investment. But at the end, you must have it, and they are good, and you have inferior solutions basically for you, at least for what I needed. But what was it that I needed? I wanted access management for information objects, not file, not microservices. I wanted them to be easily managed by the users. It's important for me that users will be able to control the content they are sharing and allowing others to see and work with. But in this sentence, there is something that is need to be explained. What is information object? So first, information object is can be referred as an object in its metadata. It's the manifestation of the entity type schema. Basically, it's data object plus addition things. Those can include, it can be a textual graph, information object, media file, to-do item, or a mechanical part representation, which is also whatever, everything can be modeled basically with a schema. But it is more. Information objects may relate other data or other information objects. And when an information object is only used for containment, I will call it a tag for convenience and clarity. Another thing, information object is tightly coupled and comes with the entity functionality. They are together. They come together, and it's the triggering system constraint. It's fully functional unit of work you can work with, basically. So let's summarize. Information object is data entity along with its functionality and its containerization option. Let's see an example of usage in data object, a simple one. Let's say we have few tags which are container of data objects, like epics, feature, user stories, customers. Let's say we have inside the tag other tag like epic 1, epic 2. Inside customer, there are multiple customers, which each is information object, and we now have to-do item. This to-do item can be contained inside epic 2 and be relates to customer 2. So this is a very simple example to make it clear. But we say the information object can contain other things also. So this information object, for example, may contain a document which is built from multiple paragraphs, basically, and another to-do item in this example. So there is endless possibilities of objects and how to compose them together. And it can go down basically if someone wants endlessly in container. Another example, information object can be a representation of an abstract mechanical part. It can contain the CAD design of the file, the issues, the report aggregation. It can contain many things. This part can be in several assemblies, and in itself can be in multiple products, each of the assemblies. And we can relate each of this representation to another data object, which is specific representation of the part. So that we can organize very complex data structure this way. And we know that this product was shipped to this client. So we know where this specific part is, and if we need to replace it or not, or so on. Okay, last note about information objects, and then we return to content authorization. For my own usage, I'm soon about to build many information objects. The known and basic one are to-do item, document, personal notes, media file attachment, chat, and others. If someone wants, it's all served through APIs. So if someone wants, I can offer them and to use as a service or some other arrangement we can find. It is relevant to your case. Let's talk. So in terminology, what information objects I can put, we can check. But what is ShareIt? Let's go back. What does it do? Well, ShareIt, as we said, allow you creating a clear and personalized. You can do whatever you want with it, and it's okay. You will be okay. Organization of information objects and facilitate data sharing, flexible authorization, setting access permission, visibility between many users and information objects. Question it can answer: can a specific user access a specific data object? If so, how? Maybe there is a direct access. It gave access directly to someone to this object. Maybe it's because I gave access to the group. Maybe it's a group that is inside group, and I gave access to that. Maybe the object is inside something, part of something, and I shared the bigger thing. So you can not only know check if it is inside something, you can ask what is the trust chain or permission propagation chain that get at the end I have this set of permission. I can ask who can see this data object and see it very in an organized way. What a specific user has access to. Does my boss have access to this document or not? If I make a change, what would really be the impact? If I make a change and give a permission to this group, what will change? Who more will be able to see? What additional user will be able to see, for example, this piece of content? And if I want to give, for example, access to this group, what are my options? I can give him directly, but if there is, maybe I can give it to the group. What are my options? And if there is an alternative way, which will simplify the schema, the permission schema, basically. So this is another question that ShareIt can answer. Here, TypeDB came to the rescue and allowed to do magics. I will show you example, which is a bit from the POC, but many of the things are there in the infrastructure themselves and evolve. So let's see. Let's say we have a user. As you can see, I'm growing the beard to look like him. And we have a user group. And the user is a member of the user group. Now we have an information object and we have a tag. And the user in the tag, the information object, is a member in the tag. What I want to do is now give permission from the user to the information object, or from the user to the tag, or maybe from the user group to the information object or to the tag. So let's see how it can be done. Let's say we have a user and a user group, and then the user is a member in the user group. Now we can say that the user group is a member in another user group. What we should expect happen in this case, that if this transitivity happens, then the user is also a member automatically in the user group. Let's see how it can be implemented in a simple rule. We have G1, which is a user group, G2, which is a user group, G1 is not G2. And if the user is inside G1 and G1 is inside G2, then the user is inside G2. This is how simple you can do things with TypeDB amazingly. Okay. Also, it's important to say that we can put tags inside tags. Every object can have multiple containers inside multiple containers in the same time, which make it basically endless options. Now, let's see another rule. If we have a tag and the user group and a user group and a user and a permission specification, access specification, and the user is inside a user group, and there is a relation of access between the user group and the tag with the permission, then the user have a permission to the tag. The same permission. Let's see. If we have a user and we have a group, and the group have access to the tag, then the user also have access to the tag. We get by another rule. Let's see another rule. Tag, we have a tag, we have a thingy, we have a user and permission. The thing is inside the tag, and there is a access relation between the user and the tag. Therefore, there is an access relation between the user, the thingy, and the thingy with the same permissions. So we say that the user, we have a user, we have a tag, the user have access to the tag, and now if the information object is part of the tag, then we can move the permission set and the user now have permission to the information object. So if you see it to the full round, so we had the user group which had a membership to the tag, and we basically moved the information of the access permission up until the user directly to the tag we want. So you can see with very few very simple rule, you can achieve quite a lot because it's manifest very nicely. One small reminder to make it about things is that every tag is also an information object. So basically, things can contain things and so on. It's important for the usage shift when you go down to it. Okay. A question that comes many times is what happens if I have permissions from multiple directions, from multiple tags, for example. So what's happened is that permissions are accumulated. By default, there is no access to something unless you are its owner. Now, if you give access and access is given from multiple directions, there is a aggregation of permissions and the max, and so at the end, the max is calculated. So if someone gave you read and someone gave you read and write, so you will have write and so on with many permissions. Some advanced capabilities that the infrastructure have, there are more, but those things are asked when seem more relevant. You can say that something is out of the scope of the permission setting. So if I give permission to a document, by default, I give also permission to everything that is contained inside the document. But I can say now I'm having a new draft, paragraph, for example, or something, and I don't want to share it, or I want to share it only with a specific person. So I can put something out of the hierarchy. Basically, it's still in the data organization the same, but the permission does not propagate and use it. It will not propagate through the trust chain. And the thing that you put aside basically can have its own permissions until it's deleted, until they are unified. Another thing that was asked for is you can make a group and with prerequisites. So you can say in order to belong into group A, you must be in group B and group C, or everyone that is involved in the intersection of group B and group C will be in group A. So if you have someone that is assigned to team 1 and he is in some management position, also as a role, so he will be in team 1 leadership, for example, and so on. You can have derived basically membership, which is not set, you don't need to manage it. You know that someone is inside the team 1 management leadership, so you can give this right and it is automatically managed. Okay, questions? Any questions until now? And don't have a way to see them.
Oh, good. Press on.
Okay. So, okay. So I will show you some demo. It will be presentation demo. Last time I did it also in front of code and showed the code moving. It created a lot of mess. A bit jumping between screen, and I can see it. Okay, I will answer them after. So currently the infrastructure have a entity framework. So kind of entity framework. So basically creating an entity is not much a distance from what you see here, which is this definition. This is in Python. You define the object, it's their type, and you have a user. With everything, it's have multiple mobile, it can have last name or first name or not, multiple emails, and so on. Those with the sharp eye will notice it is inherited from entities base, which is looks something like this. And then it changed during time, but no, not far from this. Basically, this was the base that we have started from. So basically, you create objects quite easily and add them and work with them. In this example, I create a single user, as you can see here, which is automatically have something is called private tag, which is aggregate everything that the user creates relates to it with the specification, which is quite open for the user or totally open. Now I'm creating a user group. Let's call it the testing group. You can see here. And I'm creating another user. So here you can see there is another user and another and a group. Now I'm creating something that's called a priority team, which is basically a tag that have a value. That can have constraint. It can only have a single parent, and it have a value. Basically, what's happened is that when you build it, you set how important something is for you, and you can say this is 5, this is also 5. Let's say I want to divide my work, my time 50-50 between home and work. Now, later on, when you look at the to-do items, for example, you can aggregate the time that was invested and see the relative, and there is a relative calculation that says, okay, you wanted to invest 50-50 from your time in home tasks and work time, but you invested 80-20. So this is what is priority team, but basically I created, this is a tree structure of containment, and as you can see, I'm giving access. I have able check that I have access, for example, for ShareIt dev, and I do have access. Now, when I ask why do I have, I can ask why do I have the access, and it will tell me that I have access because I have access for ShareIt development because I have access to ShareIt. And why do I have to share it is because ShareIt is connected to the private tag, have access to it, and so on. I can continue this and work and explain why I have this set of access rights. Now I'm adding to-do items, multiple to-do items, and putting them, assigning them to the priority teams. And as you can see, prepare presentations for Orbit and so on. Then I can, of course, put multiple tasks inside another task, like here. If I'm looking at the to-do items relation, if I'm looking basically starting to open it and see what is inferred, it looks something like this. If I'm looking at everything and including inference, we look some behind the scenes, something more like this, which is becoming big very, very fast. Now, user 1 decided to invite user 2 to share it to the ShareIt tag. And granting of information is currently built as the invitation process. So you build an invitation, there is a creation of invitation, the user can see it in his pending list invitation, and he can accept, he can reduce permission set and say, I don't want this, I want only read and not write, or something like this, and there are reasons to do this, such demotion of permission. And as you can see now, he will invite user to have access, direct access to ShareIt, to the ShareIt tag. This is so. If you have the direct access to the ShareIt tag, and you can see that ShareIt have two priority team beneath him, which is ShareIt development and ShareIt product. Now, if we look at the task, and we could check and run a test and see if to what access to what to-do items user 2 have access to, which in this case are to those 4. If we look at the test, basically because it is the demo is built as also as a testing case to check there is never regression, so you can see that all of you have access only to those tasks. Again, because we gave access to this. And so this was it. Or example, how it is used. One of the questions that was asked frequently is about performance, and one of the tests the system have is looking like this, and it's interesting and maybe helping clarifying also what they use, what the system is doing. As you can see here, we have a set of groups, group 1, and inside group 1 there is group 2, and inside group 2 there is group 3. And then we have user 1, which is inside group 1, user 2 inside group 2, and user 3 inside group 3. Now, let's also create tags, and let's put them, again, one inside the other. And so we're going and we're building this 10 group deep and 10 tag deep. And now we do one permission set we give. We give a permission set from group 1 to tag 1. This is the only permission we supply now. By doing this, we basically give access to everything, everyone and everything in this example, because user 1 is inside group 1 and he has access to group 1, which is, and group 2 is inside group 1. So we have access also to group 2 and so on. So we can check if user 1 have access to tags 1 to 10. We can also check if user 3 has access to tags 1 to 10. So to do this, the system needs to do of the user inside group 3, which is inside group 2, which is inside group 1, which is inside tag 1, which contains tag 2, which contains tag 3, for example, in this, and so on. There is this all 10 by 10 matrix is occurring, and there is a measurement how the price of checking access is increasing. And basically, the current status, what I can share that what I'm seeing is that this is 100 checks, which various complexity levels, and it takes around the whole batch of tests takes about 2 seconds, which is 20 milliseconds per access on average. And if I'm doing this one by one and not as a bulk check, it takes around 10 seconds. This needs to be put with the disclaimers, the following disclaimers, that in this test there is no round trips, so the server is running on a local Docker container. On the other side, to balance it out, it's a 7-year-old Windows computer with usually many other application services and things running in the background. So it's not also not optimized for production from the other side of, and it could be much better. And also this test is without any caching and any other attempts to optimization that some of them may have trade-offs. So it's the basics test. Okay, so I showed you basically that ShareIt is a project. It's an infrastructure project. It should enable you to allow you to use your any things solutions and manage access inside them. It can also help in organization of complex data because every user can build his own set of tags basically on the same objects and organize them personalized, or as a group can do it. It has many other capabilities. It has a roadmap which is quite cool. And also another branch that is starting is what is called the object store, which allows you to consume various information objects. It's API, and it's not only the data storage which is included, but also the functionality and triggering system, and so you can subscribe to it and so on. So if you find it of benefit, talk to me. If you can see you have a use case which you can think of that can maybe this system can help you solve, talk to me. And maybe sometimes I don't have it in my in my product, but in my roadmap. So I will just drop you a word when this specific feature is available. And of course, if you want development of specific features or anything, it's possible. Currently, it's a single person, but we can find solution. Even payment, I will delegate and work with and bring in someone to advance it much faster, and we can balance it out on service price. I don't multiple times return of investment. So I hope it's a good. If you see a use case that can use it, I hope you have the motivation, anything, or to check it out further. Thank you. I would like to thank the TypeDB team, and the graphics were taken from Lucas Adam Oleski Kolov, and my family, which is back and quiet behind the door. And my email is maydanw@unfoldit.com.